got a crazy-ass true story to tell. It could be funny or thrilling or creepy as hell. And when you speak, surely none will make a sound. And the world's going breathless when your true story comes around.
All right, welcome back to Your Best True Story, episode 19. And Freddie, we have got a great show lined up today. We've got 4 new calls, and a lot has been happening over the past couple of weeks since the last episode.
There's been a few things.
Yeah, there's just to recap. We've since the last episode, I think we've had an assassination attempt on Trump. We've had Joe Biden quit. We've had the Paris Olympics start with some amazing art or performances to show us what the Olympic spirit is all about. Any of those jump out to you as
the one that jumped out to me the most was the Blue Meal guy singing his heart out as an entree.
I just recently saw that video, and so maybe you can explain. So this is the Paris Olympics opening evening event that shows, it's basically like a parody of The Last Supper, but with a blue trans
it has likenings creature. If you once it pans out, there have been assumptions made that it does in fact look a lot like the Last Supper painting, but it's obviously totally different because it's a lot of trannies in all sorts of states of disrobement. There's some Easter eggs if people want to go hunting for some of those around. But then
and the blue guy is mean to be an entree.
Well, in my mind, he encompasses the battle that goes on in sports and sportsmanship. And once he starts singing, that is
eating other people who are transitioning into a different.
I'm trying to put it together in my mind, Jim.
It seems to sum everything up about the Olympics really well.
It screams sports, sportsmanship, world competition, unity, all that, in just a different way than I've seen it done before, but very colorful.
When I saw that video, if there would be no way in hell I would think Olympics. If you just see that video in it.
Wait, so you weren't fired up for your country to compete in a sport of your liking after watching this opening ceremony?
No,
what you're saying?
No, I was just trying to reboot my computer.
Wait a second. What about when the horse of the pale horse of death came running by?
I missed that part.
There was that.
All right,
with the revelations and the whole pale horse followed by death.
All right, well, it's good. Yeah, that's good stuff. It's a good world message.
It kicks things off for the the national sporting event.
What do you think it's just going to all devolve from here into the election of just complete comedy, or do you think there's going to be, or is it going to go past the election? What do you think the timeline has got in store for us?
It depends which timeline we're in, Jim. Right now we're in the really extra colorful, really comedic, I feel, timeline. The way Joe Biden sort of resigned on a social media app with no presidential seal of any kind and a totally different signature than he's ever used before, which was cool. I thought that was like
it did seem a little casual.
Yeah. It was refreshing.
Yeah.
And then he had COVID. Then he disappeared kind of for 5 days, and then even more exciting for me is when he got back, he was like 6 inches taller than he was. Well, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's cool.
Well, whenever you get over COVID, you tend to grow a little bit.
It seems to be the case. So there might be some side effects that they didn't, scream at you about a couple of years ago.
Well, whatever is going to happen, it seems like going forward, we're in for a lot of entertainment. So I can't predict what that is. I've lost all ability to.
You lost your bearing, Jim?
Yeah, I think I've lost the plot on what's going on in the world enough where I don't even feel confident, like saying like this is what I think's going to happen anymore. But maybe the blue cannibal trans guy from the is he going to run in the election?
He might be the VP pick.
Wow,
you never
that would be
know
strong.
because we still got that nugget to come.
Yeah,
at
that would
some
be a
point
strong
here.
choice. Yeah.
You know who I'm rooting for.
Yeah. Who?
Big Mike.
Oh, that's right.
I've always been rooting for the Big Mike component.
We should probably get into the calls rather
Yeah,
than
we
going
should,
down
we
too
should.
many of it. Or we're going to ostracize.
Everybody's trans these days, Jim.
Yeah.
If you look at the Olympics, you can see everyone is trans. You are too. You just don't know it yet.
Oh, is that the message that we're just okay?
Didn't the blue guy sing that to you just now?
Luckily, I don't really watch TV anymore, so a lot of I've realized
this doesn't drag you back in.
Yeah, no, it does not make me want to pay for cable again.
Oh well, all right, try better, Olympics.
All very interesting stuff, and we apologize, of course, to any blue cannibalistic trans people out there that are big fans of the show. Please call in and explain your take on the Olympics.
Yeah,
and
call
we'll
in and take us down.
Yeah, and but for everyone else, we've got 4 new calls that span kind of a hodgepodge of. We've got everything. There isn't a central theme really, Freddie. Mm-hmm. We've got everything from Tristan. Remember the guy, the mushroom monk story from a few months back? He has called in his Cobra attack story, which is great. We'll get to that in a moment. Then we've also got a call about potential particle accelerator effects.
All right.
Which takes it in a whole down the rabbit hole potentially again on what is going on with those. So, and then we've got a couple other interesting calls to play. One that will probably spur some ideas of potentially theories about the moon for you.
I've never thought about that before.
I think that's a lie. I think you thought about the moon a lot. But before we start to play the calls, just a reminder, this is the last show of the month, so we would encourage you to, once you hear these calls, go to the website, yourbesttruestory.com, and vote for whatever story you think is the most interesting, entertaining for the month of August. That person will win $250 and be invited on the show to have a one-on-one interview like we did with Rob Kidston last episode. And Freddie, you bailed on Rob. You disappeared.
I didn't. Apparently, I'm jumping in and out of actual time because I thought I had
timelines.
Yeah, I had in my timeline that was supposed to take place at 8 p.m., not 6 p.m.
Yep.
So I literally started getting ready at 7 p.m. and then noticed the text from you that it had already happened.
Yeah, well, that's under. So
I apologize because I spent the day deep sea researching. I had a ton of great questions for Rob.
Well, he'll probably win again in a few months. So he did say he had one more story to call in.
What do we call it?
The Kidston Doctrine?
The doctrine, yes.
Yeah,
he has his own doctrine.
Yep, he's got to wait till October
to
win again.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a good interview with him. And so that is kind of the way the show works is call in your story, whatever you got, and we'll play it on the air. If enough people vote for it for that month, then you get invited on and you can win $250. Also, if you get a chance, please leave us a 5-star ranking on whatever podcast player you listen to. And last thing to touch on is the YouTube page should be up here in the near future, Freddie. I'm running a little bit behind. I was hoping to have it started with this episode, but been a little bit behind on stuff, so it might be another week or two, but this month the YouTube page should be starting, which will basically take everybody's individual story and turn it into a video.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, so another cool aspect of it is if you call in your story, we'll turn it into a video and put it on YouTube that can link to whatever, social media or whatever you want to. With Rob's, we had him take a look preview at the video I made from his first story, and he loved it. He was shocked by how well the AI, without him telling the story, we basically generated where it looks like he is speaking and telling the story in the video, which kind of blew him away how well it worked.
Yeah, I got a sneak peek at that one, and it definitely adds another element to all of these stories. It's going to be great when that rolls out.
Yep. And one thing I will warn people, in the future, we'll probably allow you to send in a picture if you want to be used to actually tell your story looking like you. But if at this point, the story of you that you tell, we're just kind of AI is picking what you look like. So be warned. I think Tristan, I was working on his Mushroom Monk story.
Yep.
And Tristan, you're a redheaded guy with a beard. And so I apologize in advance if that's not what you look like, but that is in your video going to be what you look like for at least that first one. Because you can't really, it's weird working with AI because it's kind of trial and error. So once you start to get it to work well and look good, you don't really want to try to get too specific with it.
Don't believe him. Jim's a big proponent of the gingers.
Yeah. Yep. I'll just randomly pick what everyone looks like and demand they conform to it from here on out. All right. So the first call we've got is from a guy named Nick, who the title of this call is Surprise Visitor. And I was just going to, before I play this call, Freddie, going to ask you, since you're a married man, have you ever had, not talking about any kinky stuff, but just normal day-to-day interactions with your wife, has she ever surprised you with something that you did not expect? Like that kind of sticks out in your mind, like you just wake up, start the day, and she has... there's something that she wants you to do or tells you is happening that completely kind of blows your mind that you did not expect at all.
No.
Nope.
No.
No, you run
Not at all.
you run a tight ship.
It's not my ship. She's very even keeled.
Yeah, I can see that.
She's very chill. So the needle doesn't move. I could literally... She could come home from work, and I could have filled the house with 2 feet of sand, put palm trees everywhere, and have a beach chair and be watching some sort of beach movie. And I would get exactly the same reaction as if I had built an enormous second story on the house with a sauna and, a lush bathroom.
Yeah, I could just see her nodding,
just
taking
like,
it all in. Probably should be asking her that question about you.
Yeah.
That's probably the dynamic. Well, we're going to hear Nick's experience right now. Nick, take it away on how you were surprised by your wife.
Okay, so it was really early on in our relationship, and my wife, this was before we were married, she woke me up one day. And she's like, "Hey, Nick, can you cook breakfast for me over the weekend?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I usually do cook breakfast. So what do you..." It just literally confused me. So she's like, "Well, we're going to have some guests over." So here's me thinking, hey, her mom and dad's coming up from Georgia to come see us up here in Chicago. I'm like, oh, okay, well, no problem. I can make breakfast for your family. And then she hits me with the people that are coming, they're the current sitting Archbishop of Sweden. And I'm like, I'm sorry, sweetheart. And she's like, yeah, Aunt Jacqueline and her husband, Heinz, are coming, and we are hosting them for breakfast. So wait, honey, you're saying somebody that's next to the Pope pretty much is going to be looking for breakfast cooked by yours truly? And she said, yeah. So I'm like, okay. So now I'm sitting here going, well, what in the hell do you serve a head of state? Especially one that comes from Sweden. And so I'm like, so I went on the web, I'm like, what do, Swedish people normally eat? Found a little recipe for, something kind of like a pancake, but it's a wheat thing, and it's more along the lines of a very large crepe. So I pretty much spent the entire day trying to perfect that recipe, and went ahead and, about 10 or 12 batches later, finally perfected the recipe and perfected, perfected the way of getting it done without burning the house down. So we went ahead and, I made some pancacore, as it was called, and some bacon, and, I also made some eggs and stuff like that, just in case I wanted something else to go with all that. Some fruit and, orange juice and, mimosas, if they needed them. So yes, that was the story on how one day I woke up and was serving breakfast to the current sitting Archbishop of Sweden.
So the only thing, the first thing that jumps out to me about that call,
Yep.
is I just want to ask Nick why. Why was he never? He never that would be shocking to be told you were cooking breakfast for the Archbishop of Sweden, but he didn't give any explanation of how does that happen? Did she meet him in a bus stop, or is that her aunt?
So I would assume they were family, friends, sort of related, because I don't think, it doesn't sound to me like on the call that this was a political or public meeting,
no,
because comes with the entourage.
He would sort of know that was going to happen.
Yeah, because the whole prep team would have got there way before.
And he would be he would think in his mind, I'm potentially somebody that's cooking. You would have that on your radar that you might be.
Plus all the poison testers and, all that rigmarole that goes with being in, a royalty and stuff, right? Doesn't that?
Yeah,
I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
But I would have people that would.
I would be sure there would be some security for.
Well, somebody's got to test your food, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. You have enemies when you get to be royalty?
They're not really royalty because it's the Catholic Church. So it is, and I think she's still the Archbishop. All right, so I'm not an expert on this at all, but the way I think it works is the equivalent of the Pope is the president of the Catholic Church. Then you have... she would be the equivalent, it seems to me, of a governor or senator, for that, the Swedish.
Maybe she's got enough anonymity to pull it off. And
she just goes around and surprises random strangers.
Well, we're looking at her picture now, and if I saw her in the grocery store, I wouldn't be starstruck.
No, probably not.
I don't.
No, she looks very. She's no blue man laying on a platter, blue transsexual dude laying on a platter.
It's sort of andro, though.
Yeah, but what would lead you to? Yeah, that's the interesting thing. Is I just like to know more. Is how did she end up there? How did it go?
Yeah,
how did it go?
Wait a second. Yeah. You can't just call up and say, we've got this super highfalutin person coming over for breakfast. Click. You gotta, what'd you cook?
Yeah. Well, you said what he cooked.
Did he?
The crepe thing.
Oh,
yeah. That's what he was working on all day.
Don't they get courses? Maybe I'm mixing up.
Wait, you think
royalty and.
You think they eat horses?
No, courses.
Oh, courses.
Courses.
I thought you said horses. I was like, now you're taking a really
important people eat dinner and breakfast in courses. First course, second course. Hence all the different kinds of forks and knives.
Yeah.
Jim?
I think we are exposing ourselves as woefully ill-informed of the way the hierarchy to the Catholic Church goes.
I'm sure I have pieces of it.
Yeah, you probably are imagining it 100% correctly. Nick, if you are listening to the show still, you might have already turned it off by now, but if you're still listening, we encourage you to call back in.
Wait, we're not done with Nick. I still have more questions. What did he...
Well, that's what I want him to do. Yeah.
Did he... I hope he gets picked for the thing so we can ask him all these questions. Like, did he practice his banter? Like, what subjects did he have lined up for...
Yeah, but see, all of that depends on the context of why she's coming there. Why the Archbishop is even... He could be, maybe Nick's in the State Department or something that we didn't even... we have no context of what...
Well, once you're done with weather, right, you got to go somewhere. Like, he's probably got a pregame where he's going to, where his next...
That's what I just think. I think we need to encourage Nick to call back in and give us more context.
Was it awkward?
Does he still, and I'd like to know, does he still hang out with the Archbishop? Was it just that one time?
Did they give him like squinty judgy eyes? Like,
that's a good question
did
about
he
the
give
crepe.
Himself, like, was he feeling like repentant about anything?
Or if we go get Nick now, wherever Nick is,
right,
and we fly to the Vatican, can Nick get us into like the secret rooms down below where they explain everything about like aliens and demons and what's going on with the Olympics opening ceremony?
That he might be the guy for that job.
He's our closest shot.
He could be there right now.
Yeah, he's our closest shot, Freddie, to figuring this all out. Is Nick?
Nick, can you get us behind the velvet rope?
So don't say it too loud. Whisper it.
Sorry.
Yeah. But Nick, that's we need you to call back in, give us more details. And
I like where it started. There's got to be a little bit. We need a little more.
Yep, more context, both before, after, during.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nick. We appreciate the phone call, and please call back in and tell us what's in the basement of the Vatican. And now, moving on to our second call is one that I know, Freddie, we were excited when he called it in a couple weeks ago when I told you he had done it. Now we're getting to play it. It's Tristan who had called in the great story called The Mushroom Monk Story from 3 or 4 episodes back, I think. And he mentioned that he had been attacked by a cobra at one point in a different story.
I'm so happy he spaced in long enough to listen to the episode and hear us call out for the Cobra story.
Yep. So he is calling in with his Cobra attack story. And I just wanted to kind of give a preface. So the thing to me, if you were bitten by a cobra or any venomous snake, because what I did was I kind of looked up kind of the process of what happens when you get bit by a venomous snake. And it's difficult to exactly nail down because there's so many different types of venomous snakes that all do different things to you. But it's basically like you've got a creeping... It's mainly described as the first thing is an overwhelming sense of fear that grips your body. Like even more past the typical anxiety of you've been bit. There's something that a primal thing in your body once the poison goes in that your body is alerting you to you're about to die, motherfucker.
So none of that has been like given to you like if you were just a person from a village in the woods who'd never seen TV or heard about snakes from what they do to you, this is what would happen to you.
Yeah, you'd just be walking along, the snake would bite you. Yep.
Okay.
Like a mosquito biting you. But then there's there's 2 main types of venom, I believe. There's one that affects the blood, and the other one affects the neurological system as a neurotoxin. And so I think they work slightly different, but basically it was you're overwhelmed by a sense of fear, like instinctively, which I imagine is kind of like when you get on the edge of a high cliff or something, and there's that overwhelming sense of your body just telling you.
That's hardwired in.
Yeah, hardwired in, you're about to die.
Okay.
You get that sense. And then depending on the venom, for sometimes 30 minutes, but up to like 4-6 hours. Then you just slowly go downhill depending on what kind of venom it is. And it gets worse and worse of like some of them you start to go into like almost rigor mortis. Others, the ones that affect your blood, I believe, start to make you like internally bleed. Some of the venom, I think, actually starts to kill your flesh, like flesh eating.
Necropsy?
Yep. Where your body starts to die.
Yeah, it starts to decompose inside.
Yep.
Seen that.
So all that's good stuff.
It is.
That's the preface to Tristan's getting attacked by a cobra story. And so now we'll let Tristan from Arizona take it from here.
All right, go Tristan.
Hi, this is Tristan from Arizona again. Wanted me to call in the time that I happened to get bit by a cobra. Yeah, I guess I'll get straight to the point. Let's see, I was 16 at the time, and I did some off jobs, mostly construction, landscaping. Everything was under the table. And this next job, well, it was also under the table. A friend of a friend mentioned that they knew a herpetologist and he needed an extra hand. He just set up essentially what was a reptile rescue, which is essentially a pound, but for exotic reptiles instead of dogs or cats. So I got a hold of him, and it was essentially just two people who had started this shop on their own. I'll keep their names out of it. But long story short, I took the bus and started my first shift and got acquainted with all the animals, and it was exactly that. It was a small, unassuming brick building full of a bunch of gigantic lizards and such. I mean, the owner had a few personal animals. I guess anybody who messes with reptiles tends to have a few, but anything from the 14-foot reticulated python named George to this massive green iguana that just wandered around the shop like a dog named Harold. They even had, I believe he was just shy of 7 feet, a black-throated monitor, which is essentially just a big black-scaled lizard. Massive head, nearly the size of a dog's. But it was docile as a dog. I mean, the owner had raised it from an egg, so he was pretty chill. But, I mean, anything from tortoises, turtles, iguanas, snakes, lizards, you name it, this place had some animals. And essentially my job was just, keep the shop clean, try to keep everybody fed, make sure everything's going all right, talk to customers and such, help out with adoptions and things like that. But so I want to say, it was about 6 days in. One of the animals that I was told not to mess with was this gorgeous black snake. It was a Brazilian water cobra. It was also known as a false water cobra because it didn't have a true hood. It, instead of like flaring out like a typical cobra, it would just flatten its flesh up against its back bones to a similar semblance of a cobra's hood, but not the same. But because the snake was venomous, I was told just to leave that one to the owners until I got better acquainted with the animals and such, which I was more than happy with. I didn't want to mess with anything that was venomous. But after 6 days of, doing my rounds, I started to really get comfortable with the animals. I mean, I was never nervous around snakes or anything like that. I would catch them all the time in the desert. But, venomous is a different level. I certainly wouldn't catch a rattlesnake in the wild accidentally. But I guess, what would you call that? Young confidence. That dangerous thing. One day the owners went out to go grab lunch, and, they left me just to run the shop. And I gotten everything pretty close to spotless, except this cobra's enclosure. It had just freshly shed, I noticed, and it was a little bit in disarray, nothing too messy, but definitely needed some attention. So I thought about it in my own head for like 10 minutes, arguing with the devil on my left shoulder and the angel on my right. And eventually the devil won, and he's like, all right, you know what? I bet the owners are going to be super impressed that I got everybody's enclosure clean. So I'll just leave the snake alone, just clean his enclosure. No big deal. In and out, 10 minutes, won't take nothing. And so that's exactly what I did. Unbeknownst to me, one of the traits of this snake is that they're naturally territorial, which essentially means that it's really pissed off when it's in its tank and when you're trying to take it out. I didn't know this. So as soon as I open that door, man, and I reach in to start grabbing the shed, I figured they were chilling under their rock in the corner. They wouldn't mind. That son of a bitch lashed out from under that rock like living lightning and fucking tagged me right below my wrist. So I composed myself right quick, get the door closed proper, and then look down at my arm and realize this fucking guy got me. And I didn't have very good control over my emotions at 16. I don't think very many people do. I think that's pretty standard. But, oh boy, was I glad that I was alone in the shop, because as soon as I realized that I just got bit by a fucking cobra, I thought that was it. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to die. And the sheer dread, you know that feeling when you fucked up? But this was like times 10. This is like my stomach dropped to my shoes. I went even paler, started breaking out in a cold sweat. I thought this was the dumbest way to die. I'm going to sit here in this shop that not too many people know about, and I'm going to be dead by the time the owners get back. At the time, I didn't have a smartphone. I had this little Samsung with buttons on it. And the first thing that came to my mind, because I'm already a dead man walking, is I've got to type up a note to my best friend that I ain't going to see him this weekend. But my hands were shaking so badly, and the buttons were really small anyways. It was a giant pain in the ass to text on it. It was one of those, where you had to press the button 3 times to get the character and then enter it. So I ended up sending him a garbled nonsense blob of text. It's just like, no words are spelled correctly. The message definitely didn't get across. And I guess it took me about 5 minutes to do that, because the owners, thankfully, weren't far off. They went just around the corner to get lunch. So they walked in on 16-year-old me, fucking just tears streaming down my face, trying to text a goodbye note to my best friend. And, they walked in with the burritos, and they said, what happened? What's going on? Why are you so upset? And I just, I let them know that the fucking cobra got me. And at first, they looked worried, and they checked the bite, and both of them start laughing. And I don't know what they were laughing about, because, I was sitting there in the worst mood you could possibly be in, just thinking I'm going to die. But they double checked the bite, and I realized, in my adrenaline rush, I didn't double check the bite either. I didn't have any fang marks on the bite. It was just a few tiny scratches from the teeth. And that's when they told me that the cobra has rear fangs, which means the fangs of the snake are in the way back of its mouth. So I didn't get dosed. Not only that, it turns out the venom of this cobra isn't even that bad. It's not a very toxic snake. If I'd gotten dosed, I probably would have been fine. I would have gotten a bit sick. But I'm sitting here, trying to type a goodbye note to my best buddy, and I'm fucking fine. I'm not going to die. The catharsis, again. Holy shit. It's like a ray of sunshine just peeked through the windows. Holy fuck. I'm not going to die. And, well, that's the time I got bit by a cobra. But I guess the only lesson from the story is don't fuck with venomous animals. I got lucky. and it wasn't that bad. And I should have done way more research about the snake before attempting to fuck with it. I don't blame the snake, he was just chilling in his home, and I came in and tried to clean it up without asking permission. I don't fucking know how being territorial works, but that's the time I got bit by a cobra. I hope you could use this. But keep it going, guys. It's a great show. Have a good one now.
So I love the fact that Tristan thinks he's gonna die, and he's not texting. He's not trying to call 911. He's not praying to God. He's not sending the note to his mother, Mom, I love you. It's just he's basically canceling on his friend for meeting up for beers that weekend.
That's probably the best part of this. I love that. And just for future reference, Jim, since we now in 2024 have emojis, if this ever happens to you
Snake
or
emoji?
me, yeah, I'm just going to give you a snake emoji and a peace symbol. That means I'm out of here.
And I will see that and I'll go, oh, Freddie's buying a snake.
No.
He's buying a pet snake. Cool.
No, we're predetermining the meanings of these emojis.
I'm not going to remember. Whatever you tell me.
So you're going to make me type out a garbled message that I can't do the episode next week because I got bit by a snake?
Yeah, I'll figure it out. A couple of once your wife calls and says, oh, by the way, Freddie died 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's what he meant.
Yeah, and I'll be like, oh, my God. So he didn't want me to research snakes. That wasn't
exactly what he said those emojis meant now that I went back and listened to that episode where he told me those emojis meant that.
Yeah, it'll get figured out. All gets works out in the wash.
No, man. Dennis. My roommate.
Yeah, he used to have
lived with me.
Yeah, he used to have 3 or 4 venomous snakes.
He worked with a ton of snakes at his job, but he had a pet one. It was a gaboon viper. It's like one of the top most venomous snakes in the world.
I remember that snake.
And we had this. It was like the house that we were renting had 4 bedrooms and then like a 5th
snake room.
Well, yes, that he put that enclosure in the back of this room. And you'd go in there and we'd throw parties and stuff. And then you go in there for a reason or not, whatever, during the party later. And the lights would be off and you'd kind of stumble into that room by accident.
Yeah.
And
I remember
just
hearing the hissing. Yeah.
It's not a hissing.
Or whatever. There was hissing. I thought
that snake growls.
Oh.
Like the deepest, rumbliest, baddest ass, that thing is a beast. It sounds like a mongoose or something bigger. Jeez. Probably it was mean. On top of being the first or second most venomous snake in the world.
I remember Dennis saying that there was something because he was licensed to work with him. He had access where he could call for the anti-venom.
Yeah.
But they had it in such low supply, it was there was a chance even if you got bit, they don't just have reserve gaboon viper anti-venom around. So it's your chances are slim to none, even if you know what to do.
Yeah. So that's my closest run-ins with a venomous thing. But that you'd go in there, or some random people will go in there and just come out and be like, what is in that room? That's you'd have the thing secured and locks on it and you couldn't get to it, but it could still hear you and threaten you.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
I remember
and it was about 4 feet
yeah.
long. It was a big, thick head. That thing was scary.
That would be terrifying to be in the position of, Tristan was explaining, you get bit. And then, obviously, you'd be so freaking panicked. It would be hard to think, he was, where... Do I actually have fang marks, or are those the front teeth that nipped me? And then you're just thinking the clock's going down.
We have this opportunity, and I've watched movies. Let me inform you what you need to do.
Yeah, if you say, suck out the venom.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Jim. First, you have to tie off your arm. So you can't let the venom go up your arm.
I think I was just reading an article that said all this was wrong.
Yeah, but I got it from a movie, Jim.
From the Brady Bunch?
It could have
Was
been the
it?
Brady Bunch episode. It could have been Lassie from back in the day. I don't know, but you have to tie off your arm. Then, as you said, you have to get a friend to suck out the venom.
Why does it have to be a friend? This is like
Because
the whole
who
thing.
else is going to do it for
That's
you?
like the whole thing. And then, do you have to piss on it, or is that that's a jellyfish?
No, wait, that's jellyfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the jellyfish remedy.
Yeah. You have
among other things.
You have a friend piss on it, and then a third friend suck it out, just to be safe.
I think it goes tie it off, get the closest person willing to do it for you to suck this out, and then probably call for some
I think
reinforcement.
it'd be a hard sell if you didn't know that person real well to just be like, "Hey, bro, suck the poison out of my arm."
But just in case somebody does refer to this as medical advice, I did get it from a movie, so I'm going to refer to them. And if they got it wrong,
I've got a disclaimer at the end
do you?
of all
Okay.
the episodes.
Okay.
So we're covered. We're legally airtight.
Did I miss anything?
No,
Because I think
no.
I covered them all.
No, I think that's the best. I mean, that's the best plan of action you could possibly have. I mean,
You could chop off your arm.
Yeah, you could
Right?
chop off your arm. Yeah, which think if Tristan had chopped off his arm only to find out then that he hadn't been.
But you better
dosed.
tie it off before you get that done, because then you're just going to lose all the blood anyway. So you need to get your belt out, do a tourniquet, get that arm nice and blue. Then, well, it's up to you, because there's not medical advice, but
chop it off or have somebody suck your arm.
right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sounds like medical advice to me. When I started looking for Cobra venom stories,
Yeah.
I've got to admit, and I'm a little bit under the weather, so my brain concentration, but I got completely sidetracked into Komodo dragons. I was
those
just
are
reading-
awesome.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'd forgotten how freaking scary they are. The stories of people like Komodo dragons, not only do they have a little bit of venom, but then if they bite you, their mouths are so nasty that they will infect you with bacteria.
Yeah, you'll die later on.
Yeah, and they will just keep on
Then they'll
following
follow
you
you,
like a
and then,
robo-dog.
they bite the cow on its leg, and then they'll just follow it along, and then it'll just fall over.
But did you know also they can smell blood from 6 miles away? So if you were, and there's actually a story I'd pulled up, there was, and there's a few of these stories that of people, since Komodo dragons only live in 2 islands on Indonesia, it's like not, common to have people die from them because people know they're there and everything. But there was like a story in 2007, a dragon killed an 8-year-old boy on Komodo Island. In 2008, a group of scuba divers, this is the one that I was just thinking about being there, how freaking scary this would be. Apparently, they didn't realize they were close to one of the Komodo Island, or Komodo Dragon Islands.
Did they go underwater?
Yeah, they were scuba diving, and they got blown or drifted the current or something off of where they were supposed to be, and they lost contact with the
if
ship.
Rob has any pictures of those.
Yeah.
Underwater.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever... he has been to Indonesia. You're
Yeah,
right.
so I wonder if he has any...
I don't
should check
know.
his pictures.
But these scuba divers, 2008, found themselves swept from waters near their boat by the Flores region's infamously strong current, and after spending 10 hours spinning in the tide, around midnight, the group washed up on the beach, which they said seemed like a deserted island. They're 25 miles from where they'd gone into the water. So you wouldn't think like you had moved that far, but they basically were on Rinca Island, which is where one of the islands where the Komodo dragons live. And they spent, after being in the water for 10 hours fighting the currents, they wash up on the shore, and then they had to spend like 12 more hours fighting off Komodo dragons all night.
Like multiple.
Yeah, multiple, trying to eat, like the dragons just saw their exposed skin and started coming in from onto the beach.
Did
from
they
out
have like sharpened sticks yet?
No,
Or-
they had to just like beat them off with like fins and
How many of them were there? Not dragons, people.
just as a group. I don't
trying
know.
to just imagine in my head like what formation you take the best.
Yeah,
I guess
you'd
it'd
have
be back to back, and if everybody
back.
had a stick of some kind
Yep.
to sort of poke at the most.
Aggressive. If you get start a fire, it's sort of the same strategy as if you're fighting a coconut crab death,
Those things
like
are
that happened
huge.
to Amelia Earhart. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
same thing. They
Sure.
Can, they can smell the blood, so they all get fired up as soon as they start to make any headway. There was another story of on. Okay, so I think. I'm not sure which or which, but the two islands are pretty close to each other that have Komodo dragons. One of them is inhabited and one is not. And I think the Rinka Island I was just talking about is the one that's not inhabited. But the one that's inhabited by people have like a truce with the Komodo dragons. That basically is they give the Komodo dragons,
feed 'em?
goats.
Keep them passive.
Yeah, and as long as they keep them filled up with goats, the Komodo dragons never attack them.
Yeah, that's what we.
Yeah.
That's what they do at Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
With the big giant 12-foot alligators.
Yeah.
They're just well fed.
Yeah,
So they don't need
so-
to.
And apparently they'll just like lay in town and stuff and be completely docile as long as they're well fed. But as soon as they get hungry, they'll start turning on people. And a ranger at the island that's inhabited that was in charge of kind of watching them one time, he came in and into his office. And somebody, they said, like, picture a office up on stilts, kind of like a ranger station. And he said there were Komodo dragons that would hang out all the time underneath the office and stuff. But they were well fed, they thought, so they were docile. But then he goes into his office one morning. Some new guy had left his door unlocked. And he pulls up in his chair under his desk, and there's a Komodo dragon under his desk that bites his leg because he stuck it right in its face.
Yeah.
And then, but then the smell of blood apparently started, like some of the other rangers heard him screaming.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get entire how bad of a battle it was, but basically they were fighting off the feeding frenzy
Yeah.
from them
like
to get the
land
guy to the
sharks.
hospital. Yeah.
Wow. Damn. That's
And
a
they're
bad
freaking,
spot.
they can be huge. Like,
They
like
are.
a gator, like 10 feet
Yeah.
long, 200 pounds, but they can run up to like supposedly over like 20 miles an hour in short bursts. That's
They're awesome looking.
yeah. Oof. They're like the robotic dog wolves that will eventually be hunting us. They're like the natural version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're do you remember when I had an iguana?
No.
I had a 6-foot iguana for a long time.
6 foot?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Her name was Lucy. She was so cool. She would I'd always feed her iguana food and fresh vegetables and fruits and stuff, but she had this thing for pizza though. So and she lived on a shelf above my TV, open air with her heat rock and lamp and stuff. And there, I had a sneeze guard because she would sneeze every once in a while. So you'd flip it down. It's a big piece of plexiglass, but she'd kind of just hang out up there. Except that if we'd order a pizza, she'd start smelling it, and then she'd slide down her blanket that was pinned to the wall on either side so she can get up and down because she had a litter box somewhere else in the house. And she'd climb up the back of the couch, she'd come to the front of the couch, and she'd start measuring how far it was going to be to jump onto the pizza to eat the pizza. So I'd feed her a couple pieces of bread. She'd think she'd got pizza, and she'd go back up on her shelf. She was awesome.
What happened to her?
She
just die of old age?
Yeah, she eventually got old, and she had. I was like a third owner or something, but she ended up getting a cold somehow, and then by the time that you know that there's something wrong with them, it's kind of too late.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had her where they put the medicine in the air, like encase it in like a tube or something, and they put the medicine in the air so they breathe it in. You know,
I think I remember hearing about this when I
forget.
first
There's a
moved
word
to-
for that where you deliver the medicine.
I think I might have purposely not come to your parties because of this iguana.
She was awesome. Like most of the time she'd be on her shelf, but then randomly she'd be like not there. I'm like, all right, where is she? So I'd have to go looking, and then I'd go in my closet and like hanging. I'd have a couple suits, and then hanging on one, she's just like, what are you doing over here? Come on. She was at the top of the Christmas tree one year.
That's a huge freaking iguana, 6 feet
She was
long.
super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was so nice. I had a leash for her, take her for walks every once in a while. She'd come outside. It was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as reptiles go, iguanas are
Yeah, they're
the
chill.
nicer. Yeah, the nicer versions compared to alligators and Komodo dragons. So, well, thank you, Tristan, for calling in your Cobra story. And if anybody has got a being stalked by a Komodo dragon story, I would love to hear that. Or anything that reminds you of, even if you've just been stalked by anyone. That would be a good story. And now we're moving on to the third story, Freddie. We're shifting gears quite a bit. Now we're getting into the particle accelerator story.
Nice.
And so, which I didn't actually even realize this. Obviously, everybody's heard of CERN at this point, and the largest particle accelerator in the world. It never dawned on me there's actually other ones.
Yep.
That and there are some here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And so there's all kinds of theories of what the implications are of the testing they're doing at these locations. And so I actually brought in my friend Perplexity AI again to ask a question of, please give us a detailed bullet-pointed list and summary of the probable worst-case negative effects and disasters that could possibly occur from misuse, accidents, or unintended results of CERN and other particle accelerators experiments. And from that, I've just got a quick bullet-pointed list that the AI has researched of what could plausibly go wrong with particle accelerators. And it says formation of micro black holes, high-energy collisions could theoretically produce microscopic black holes. Potential impact, these black holes might grow by absorbing surrounding matter, potentially leading to catastrophic consequences. Creation of strangelets, and I hadn't even heard of these, but the description is quarks might reassemble into strangelets, a hypothetical form of matter that could convert ordinary matter into strange matter upon contact. Potential impact, this could theoretically transform the Earth into a hyperdense sphere, drastically altering its structure. And last one is vacuum metastability event. And the description is high energy collisions might trigger a phase transition in the vacuum of space, altering the fundamental constants of nature. This could potentially lead to a catastrophic change in the structure of the universe itself. And then it also mentions stuff like just your typical radiation and hazards.
AI is jipping you.
The beam pointing in the wrong direction, and
it's
destroying
AI
things.
is obviously just avoiding the elephant on the table.
What would you think is the?
It's a dimensional portal, Jim.
Well,
Everybody knows
I think
that.
that's kind of what it was hinting at.
No,
with,
it's talking about
the
mini
micro
black holes.
Yeah,
maybe black holes.
Yeah.
Like I guess if you say that black holes are portals, but what's really going on there is a bunch of science, and you know how you know that? Because of the opening ceremonies
Of the Olympics?
No, not the Olympics.
Of CERN.
The opening ceremonies of CERN. If anybody wants to go look them up, you'll see the most boring scientific opening of a hadron collider that you'll ever experience. It is like tax forms boring.
As I'm picturing those, because I'd seen the CERN opening ceremonies. Imagine an alien from outer space just trying to learn what humans are up to and what we're thinking about. And the two things they watch are the CERN opening ceremony and then the Paris Olympics opening ceremony.
There's totally nothing else going on there but science. It's obvious. And then somebody just has an extra budget for all these dancers and, and people in horned ram masks.
Why do they always seem to have to take the theme of death, destruction, cannibalism, paganism? It just seems
it's
like
a
weird...
rider on all their contracts, apparently. It's not even like good theatrical. It's like bad dancer,
it's like
sort of crackhead.
Yeah, it's like
theater.
Cartoon. Yeah,
it's crackhead theater. If you watch Zoolander, there's a part of the opening ceremony of CERN that reminds me of Mugatu with his giant face on the screen, like screaming at the audience. It's very bizarre, but science, I guess.
Yeah, science. That's the beauty of science. Well, we're about to hear what could be some implications of the well-intending science right now from a guy named Lucas in Long Island. And Lucas, take it away.
Hey, fellas, my name's Lucas, and you guys are doing a good job. I wouldn't say that I believe all the stories, but that's kind of part of the fun of it, I think. Sort of like a bunch of old-timers getting together and telling fishing tales that you never know which is true or which is exaggerated, and it's a lot of fun, and you guys bring up interesting points when you talk about it. And I think I've got my story that will at least give you something to talk about. So I'm a widower, and I live in a little hamlet called Port Jefferson, Port Jeff as we call it, on Long Island, sort of like a little harbor town. And I love it here. I've been here for 40 years, and everything's great. The only thing is that a little ways away there is a thing called Brookhaven National Laboratory, and a lot of people don't know, but that's a particle accelerator. The same thing that is going over in CERN at Switzerland, I believe, is the biggest one. But we've got one here in the U.S., at least this one in Brookhaven as well. And there's also some other things over there that they have, like the National Weather Service and I think the country or world's largest solar panel field. So there's a lot of stuff. A lot of it's top secret, but there's definitely the particle accelerator and a lot of energy-based things in Brookhaven. And where I'm going with this is that there's some weird things that have occurred that other people have described that they think are associated with Brookhaven, such as dead birds and animals acting funny as you get closer to that site. And that sort of ties into my story, in that not every night, but at least a couple nights a week, I head down to the harbor at Port Jeff, and I sit out at one of a couple different coffee shop places that I can see the boats and the water and everything, and sip some evening coffee with my I've got a little Australian shepherd named Bailey that is smart as a whip, and he always goes with me, and we both sit out there and kind of watch the day fade into night. And it's really nice. A couple weeks ago, though, I had an experience where I was sitting there at one of my normal tables, sipping my coffee, and after a couple of sips, I noticed Bailey started to act really uncomfortable. Like, he is a very calm dog, doesn't bark, doesn't whine much, real intelligent, sits there very dapper and just kind of acts like a buddy to me, watching, the goings on of people passing by on the street. And he starts to get all of a sudden real nervous and whining and looking at me like he's uncomfortable, and I can't see anything that would be disturbing him. And then shortly after that, after I calm him, pet him, he starts to settle down, and I go back to sipping my coffee. Then you got a picture, I'm looking out towards a boat on the harbor, and then I look back down, and if I describe this correctly to you, I'm reaching for my coffee cup as I'm looking at the boat, but then I can't feel my coffee cup. So that makes me look from the boat down to my hand, thinking that I'm missing grabbing the coffee cup. When I look down, my hand is not there. My arm is gone from the elbow up. And I can't feel anything either. It feels like my arm would be asleep, maybe is the best analogy. And full disclosure, I had recently been put on, recently as in the day before, a new blood pressure medication, which I keep on chalking it up to that might be what caused it, is some weird hallucination from the new blood pressure medicine mixing with the caffeine. But this, what I would just call missing arm, as I look down, my heart starts to race. It's surreal, and I'm getting extremely panicky, so I'm so freaked out. I am only looking at it for a couple seconds before my eyes shoot up to look to see if there's anyone else around that sees that my arm is gone from the elbow down. And then there isn't anybody. I look back and my arm is completely normal, and I can feel it again, and it's just a few inches away from the coffee cup. So I guess where I'm going with all of this is most likely the explanation was it was just a weird hallucination, side effect of the medication. I mean, I'm almost 70 now, and stuff can go wrong with your eyes and your brain and everything, and maybe that's just what it was. But I just want to say, I don't think my arm was there. It looked like felt, and everything like my arm was gone for 2 seconds from the elbow down. And I just wondered, with that particle accelerator being as close to us as it is, and all the things they're doing, which I don't think they understand all the ramifications of, and what other people have described with animals acting weird and stuff like that, and even crazier stuff, which I'm not going to repeat because I don't know if it's credible or not. But I think those particle accelerators could be a lot more impactful in a negative way than they might even know, the people that are doing it. So anyway, that's my interesting story for you guys, and keep up the good work. I'll definitely be listening. Me and Bailey sometimes listen to your show while I'm out there drinking my coffee, and keep on doing it as long as that whatever doesn't zap me into oblivion. All right, thanks guys. Talk to you later.
What do you think, Freddie? Was it particle accelerator or hallucination?
Well, clearly, he is bringing up what is the other obvious ramification that your AI assistant didn't give to you, which is that CERN is used to timeline jump, and he obviously got jumped to a timeline where he didn't have an arm for a little bit of time or a session. Because that's the other bit. It's interdimensional, or it's used to jump timelines.
So all right, so let's dive into how does jumping timelines work? Like, you can jump, like, so he obviously only jumped to that timeline for a couple of seconds.
He didn't do anything. He was just aware of, hey, I used to have an arm.
Yeah.
At some point, and he had memory of the arm.
Yeah.
And then apparently he's got the arm back, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So...
he said it was only like 2 seconds as he was looking down at it.
Yeah, they're flipping the channels over there. Like flipping through, like you with the remote, flip, flipping through channels, trying to find the channel that they like the outcome the best using, you ever heard of Project Looking Glass?
No, I don't think so. Do tell.
You should look a little bit into that, but it's basically, it uses, I don't remember if it's quantum computing or if it's some other form of something, but it goes through and it gives you the future. It maps out.
Wait, who named it? Is
the
it CIA?
military?
CIA,
yeah, the
basically?
military industrial complex.
Okay.
Like it's one of the military projects.
Okay,
and the thing about it was that at a certain point in time, all the timelines collapse into one timeline,
Sure.
and they can't manipulate. Like if they change this, they could see the future. Here's what the future would be with that butterfly effect change. Nothing that they can do can get past this point.
Like up in the future?
Right. Through this this is the problem they were having. They're like, there's nothing. This is an eventuality, whatever point this is in time. And this is all the military, CIA stuff. They're like, because they've been...
This is what they do. Yeah.
This is why The Simpsons knows everything, obviously. But that's apparently what they use CERN for, or one of the CERNs.
So break down, explain to me then, what should I be visualizing when I'm picturing the people in CERN or at the party? Like, do they have literally like a television screen that they're flipping through, and they're like, hey, we can change it to this timeline?
I don't know. So okay, so to me it might look like a soup of rituals, okay? Black robes, some sacrificing things that probably have something to do with energy that we don't understand how it works, along with some technology that allows them to ask for things and get results somehow. This is I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version of this, but it involves all of these areas: occult, sacrifice, religion, old Babylonian gods, and way back to that type time, which I'm doing air quotes again because this is all relative. But I mean, it's its own rabbit hole.
So okay, and to switch it to sort of relate that concept back to Lucas's story then.
Yeah.
So potentially what happened is there's a mad occult wizard inside of CERN or Brookhaven who did his dance, flip some switches to switch everything to a different
all those
timeline.
People at the opening did their correct crack dance or whatever with their ram heads and stuff, and you get a Mandela effect somewhere.
Yeah, but Lucas somehow noticed that his arm.
But you noticed too.
Oh,
you noticed.
I did?
Sure.
What?
That's where your Mandela effects come from.
Yeah, I got you. I
Remember
get what you're saying.
Chick-fil-A used to not have the K.
Yeah.
The Monopoly guy with his monocle versus non-monocle. There's timelines.
Yeah.
These are timeline jumps, and you're like, wait. I'm from the timeline where... I swear it was the Fruit of the Loom thing. Berenstein Bears,
I completely,
Berenstain Bears,
I remember that the completely opposite way.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
So apparently that is just the timelines being jumped on you, and you, now you've been shuttled into, the new timeline, which is the one going right now, where that is slightly, because apparently there's all of the different possibilities of each of the choices of all the possibilities have their own route that
Yeah,
you can
sure.
take through
Yeah.
the circuit board.
Yeah.
So,
So are they but you don't think they
can
know
I
the
think they can,
best one for them?
They do.
So
they
keep
chart
trying?
out
Yeah.
the best course for them.
Yeah.
Not for you,
Yeah, sure.
but for the best outcome for them. But what they were having a problem with in this looking glass story is they could not affect anything past this certain point in time, which I don't know if it was with the Mayan thing in the 2012 and then things start switching, or if we're not even in the right year that they tell us we're in.
Yeah.
So
they all converge.
right. All of the
So-
timelines that we're on in this dimension or something converge down to one.
Yeah.
And you can't manipulate it past that, and you can't affect it past that.
What do you think the interview process is like to be the wizard's assistant? It seems like we wouldn't even be able to get... they must ask for a lot of... You think it's mainly a cult, like...
if I'd had to take an educated
how many babies have you
guess.
eaten?
No,
or is
no.
it more physics heavy?
No. It would have to be a bloodline thing because you have to keep it real close to the vest.
Yeah.
So there's only a certain people
Yeah.
that can know, and of them, you've got to be pretty vetted
Yeah.
to be, but it's fine.
So you could if you were Prince Charles and if his sister, if they banged and had a kid, an incestual kid, then that dude would be definitely guaranteed of working in.
Right,
He would be ushered in immediately.
if he didn't have two heads.
Yeah,
even
if
he did have two heads, he'd probably go underground with the rest of them.
Yeah,
and all the other experiments.
Yeah.
But you're selecting out of a very select few, but which is enough people to do all this stuff. Especially imagine if you have some technology that they just haven't given us yet.
Oh yeah, which they do.
Which
we know
they do.
Yeah.
So you add that into the soup and then I don't know how you get hired to be one of these dancers because they don't dance very well at these openings. That to me is I try and break things down to the logistics of stuff. Who are you from a dance academy and you got hired above some other people? Because the LA Lakers girls seem to dance better than this, but yet you guys got the job to flail around on the ground with,
I suspect there's just so much stuff we don't know how it works.
Yeah, we're just piecing it together with the puzzle pieces we have, Jim.
There's even a way before CERN and the particle accelerators. There's a whole theory. You know who Aleister Crowley is?
Yeah.
The occult
the
guy
Satanist.
from Satanist from and I think he did this in I can't remember who it was with, but I want to say it was around 1960 or so. He supposedly, and his goal was to open some massive portal to bring in the demonic creatures.
Sure.
And supposedly people swear that him and whoever they did this ritual and it worked.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been experiencing.
Not that crazy. I mean, really, because remember, we're in this dimension. We only can see point whatever 00 something % of what we can see. There's probably other stuff we can't see in other dimensions of vision or time or whatever. So it Stargate. That show Stargate's probably got it right somewhere.
Yeah.
They get portals but apparently they can't get past this one point. So maybe,
I would be interested. That makes me, I want to find out when that point is. If that point is in the near future, or if it's hundreds of years in the future, or how that works.
Yeah.
Because that seems like that'd give you a hint.
Right.
As to the trajectory of things.
Now and then I could be totally misconstruing this, but I think it's in our lifetime, Jim.
Really?
That pinpoint time. Whether it was already and now we're just starting to feel the changes of, I don't know how.
That just makes me, I'm just picturing a big roulette wheel spinning through all the timelines, and in some of them I've got an arm, some I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm just praying that it stops. When it converges.
Arm.
Well, big money. Come on, give me 2 arms. Get 2 arms.
What if you were aware of your versions?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, is that, yeah, then the theory is you get sort of, that's where you get like intuitions and, deja vu and different
Because,
things
I mean, outside of our perception of time, this has already happened.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, I mean, there's some, there is no time. So it's just
so
all
you're just, now we're just here viewing it with our.
telling yourself
what was
the
that thing
story.
as a kid where you click through
kaleidoscope?
No, the one it clicks and it clicks to the next picture.
Viewfinder.
Yeah, you got your viewfinder, and we just click really fast, so it makes it looks like motion to us.
Yeah.
Like, you flipping cards and the little people move.
Yeah.
That's what we experienced, just on a super sped up version of it.
Yeah.
But everything's really just a picture.
Well,
simple, Jim.
Yeah. Yes. that helps.
So it's cool.
So Lucas, glad you got your arm back.
Yeah.
And now for the final call. This might sort of dovetail into this call, the CERN discussion, but it's from a professor, somewhere, college professor in Virginia. And he's just got kind of a funny story about one of his students' takes on how the moon functions. And so we'll play the story and then see if it helps you understand how the moon works, Freddie. So here is Brian, a college professor from Virginia. And Brian, I'm just going to say, hang in there. It sounds like you deal with some amazing, the brightest minds of our future.
Stop biasing the call, Jim.
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm from Virginia, and I am a college professor. Now, before you think I'm going to bore you with some sort of long pontificating lecture, I'm not, because this is supposed to be funny. We're not known for being funny because we didn't get our PhDs in comedy, but some of us try. So, this story happens a long time ago when I was still in grad school earning my PhD. And one of the things you have to do as a PhD student is teach lower level classes. And the lower level class that I had at the time was public speaking. And in that class, we required students to give a persuasive speech. So one of the things that I did to keep things interesting in the class was I would break students up into groups so that you were basically pitching your speech to other audience members, sort of like a focus group of sorts. So it's like, does this sound like a good idea for a speech or not? And then I would usually walk around class and, talk to the students, see how they're developing ideas and whatnot. Pretty simple stuff. So I get to one group, and this one student has a really good topic. She's proposing that we should colonize the moon. Cool. I'm fine with that idea. But me, being the snarky human being that I am, because I can't go 5 seconds without sarcasm in my life, it's my oxygen, I said the following statement, that I believe that we should blow up the moon, just like Alexander Abian had proposed in the 1990s. He was a bit of a crackpot. He believed that, if you did this, it would, fix a lot of Earth's problems, including you wouldn't have to worry about tides and things like that anymore. He was a goofball, but I always found that story entertaining, right? And I say it in a very over-the-top way, so it's construed as a joke. Most of the group gets it. The student I'm talking to gets it. However, there was one little genius in the group who is staring at me intently as I'm saying this. And she utters the following statement. A statement that I have to say that when I am dead, I want it etched on the back of my tombstone as a quote, so that it will be seen by humanity until the earth dies a heat death. This is what she said. If we blow up the moon, then there won't be any more nighttime. I am used to hearing some utter nonsense in my classroom. It's amazing some of the things that I've heard. This one kind of tops them all. And it takes a lot to startle me, shock me, stun me in my place. This is one of those times because I couldn't think straight. The student that I was originally talking to saw that I couldn't think straight, like I'm just fumbling around for words. So she starts explaining to the other student that made this statement, that's not how night and day works. And the student was arguing back, no, the moon, when it rises, it brings us night. Like it's the sun. And somehow if the moon was gone, we would no longer experience night. I do not drink, but those are the kind of moments where I have really thought about picking up the habit, because it's like, what am I doing with my life? Because how did you make it here into a college classroom? Now, yes, standards have dropped considerably to accept warm bodies in some places, but how did you make it here that you could make that statement with full confidence? And that's my moon student. Thank you for your time. I'm now going to reconsider everything I've ever done with my life.
Now, the great thing about that call to me is I had never, that is a great concept, that the moon like sprays night, basically, the same way we think of the sun providing light. Like, I was just like, man, that would be such a cooler way for things to work.
It is, and when I extrapolated it out in my head, it was pretty interesting, but the problems I came into was there's moonless nights. So that was a first problem with that version of it being true.
Yeah. Well, it's also, as you can sense Brian's frustration in his job, it's kind of shocking that somebody would be in college.
I like the out of the box thinking, though. I'm not gonna not gonna lie.
No, and I I played that call knowing full well from the moment I heard it that you're going to be arguing we should blow up the moon, aren't you? Because I got to admit, I'm intrigued to find out. I don't know if you can
blow up the moon or the sun.
But if the moon is fake, Freddie, like if it was man-made?
What if it's not a thing that you can blow up? Like, what if it's not solid, Jim?
Yeah.
Can you blow up a cloud? I guess.
I don't know. I just got I'd never heard that theory before.
Can you blow up a ball of electricity? I mean, you could disperse it, maybe?
You could aim the CERN beam at it.
The CERN beam?
Fuck it up. Twist it up somehow.
Just to give... I would like to see that girl later on in life, because she has such a...
I bet she's hot. I bet she is so hot.
You're just doing that in your head.
You know damn
That's
well.
just the thing you do, Jim.
You know damn well if she's that clueless of how the world works, then she is hot as shit.
I'm okay with the clue. I mean, it's probably wrong. I'm going to say it's probably wrong the way she's figured it out, but I enjoy the fringe. Because somewhere out there, it's hard to think that far outside the box.
Yeah.
To come up with your own version of things that is not the norm.
No, that's what I was saying is that the guy he mentioned that had the theory about blowing up the moon. I didn't get a chance to actually, but I'm actually kind of curious to hear that guy's theories on what would happen if you blew up the moon and why you would blow it up. Because who knows, Freddie? Maybe that is the answer.
Well, the whole moon thing, maybe as we know it, is a whole problem in itself. Yeah. Like, it's locked, for all of time.
So maybe maybe the moon was artificially placed there by someone.
Well, yeah, that's one of the many things. It could be a space station. Yeah.
If we just blow it up, we'll be liberated.
Which is providing the frequency that keeps us all locked into this... a lot of people say the moon is a soul trap. So when your soul or your incarnation gets down here, they harness your life energy, you die, You go up, then you see the light, which you're like told, oh, go into the light, which apparently that's the moon trap, and then you get recycled back down here again.
I just came up with an idea.
All right.
Remember the whole storming Area 51 thing that people tried to organize?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
We organized storming CERN to turn the beam towards the moon.
Beam? There's no beam. It's like miles and miles and miles circle. It goes under people's houses. You could just go to somebody's house and start digging, and you probably get to the CERN magnets or whatever they got propelling the stuff through those two pipes to get it almost to the speed of light or whatever before they crash them together in the tube that's the size of a human hair, like the subatomic particles somehow.
All right, that is
just after the RAM people do their crack dance.
Yeah, that is throwing off my plan for the storming and turning the beam.
It's. But maybe the Death Star, Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have these images in movies that they sort of plant there, and it does look a lot like the moon. And plus, the moon has been doing really weird. I don't remember a Cheshire Cat face moon, like.
A Cheshire.
You know the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, the big smile?
Yeah.
Well, that's what the moon's been doing like the last 2 years. It used to be on a tilt, you'd have the crescent, right, with the guy's face, and maybe the kids sitting on top of it on some of the logos. But a lot of the times now we have it's on the bottom, like. It's just
what do you mean,
weird,
like when you actually look up at the moon?
When you look up at the moon, and I could show you on my phone, which is in the other room because we're doing this podcast, but I could show you pictures of the moon like that. And I don't remember it being like that. I'm from a timeline where it didn't do that.
Wait, to try and support this girl's theory, was it a brighter night when the moon got smaller? Because you would have to think if the moon was causing darkness, if it got down to a little sliver, it'd start to get brighter.
I'm of the proponent. The moon is a fucking light. That thing is light. There's no way that is a reflection of light. It's its own light. And then there's people that
I bet
measure.
Brian is listening to this right now.
Oh, he's turning over in his pre-grade.
Thinking, why did I call this story?
He's turning over.
Yeah.
I'm the guy right behind her in class. but it's okay. It's all right, Brian. Don't worry about it. You'll be all right. But anyway, there's people who've measured like the temperature of moonlight, and it's the opposite of sunlight. It's cooler in the moonlight than it is in the shade. It's warmer if you take the laser thermometer and point it at the shade during a bright moonlit night. It is warmer in the light. No, wait, which is it? It's cooler. Sorry, it's cooler in the light than it is in the shade by degrees.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's backwards. I'm of the proponent, and it's super bright anyway, which, do you know how bright it would have to be on the moon if you were going to land on it with your little tweaker tent?
Yeah.
You know, that you in one shot spun around, got it up to that thing, circled it a bunch of times, slowly landed down on it, played golf, drove your rover around, got back in the thing, planted a camera that pans up and watches you get back up into space to meet with the thing that's floating around, then get back in our atmosphere. You know how bright it would have to be on the moon for you to see the light of the reflection of the sun here, and it's super bright? Yeah. It's like, it'd be like on top of the brightest light bulb that you could imagine. You can. It does
seem like it. Yeah, if the moon
shadows.
was radiating that much light, that it would be very difficult to see. Or I mean,
it would be insanely. It's insanely bright now. When you looking at it from here all the way through 38,000 miles away, it's bright. Like, how about on it?
Yeah. All right, this is all just convincing me that we got to blow it up.
Go ahead.
I'm getting convinced more and more that might be the solution to all the problems.
And it might be.
Gets rid of werewolves. right there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you take them out of
Scientifically proven.
Yeah, you take them out of the equation if the moon's gone.
Yeah, most of the rituals happen with around the moons too. Now, see, this is where a calendar.
All right. So let me speculate here. Say if the moon is, because it is. All right. So the moon does affect everything from the tides to zodiological movements, astrological. But I mean, what if it was created and brought there and planted here to basically keep all the forces of nature acting in some way that isn't the true forces of nature, that isn't to the optimal degree to humans, and if you basically remove the moon,
a version
it would all go back to...
Okay, the affecting the tides thing bugs me a little bit because it has enough gravitational force to lift the ocean as it goes by, but there's so many. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. I'm sure there's a tide, and because I've seen it, it comes and goes, and I do know that. Well, I don't say I'm pretty sure that it does affect how life happens on Earth, and it's necessary for there to be a tide for a lot of creatures that time things and eggs and what they eat and when they eat and how they get places and.
What if none of those creatures are supposed to exist, though? You take away the moon.
I think if you take away
and then
the
all
tide,
the real
if you take away the tide, that would be a big problem for a lot of creatures. Now, whether the moon is doing the tide, I got more looking to do because that's a lot of force, Jim.
Yeah.
To lift an ocean by feet.
Yep.
You know
the entire
how much,
planet. Yeah. That's a lot of water.
That is so. You should be able to feel like your hat should probably fly off your head.
Yeah.
Before the ocean.
Well, Freddie,
Brian?
Yeah.
You're still listening?
Brian, I apologize. We got a lot of people to apologize to this episode, Freddie.
You should just have
Brian, the blue transsexual cannibal dude at the beginning of the Paris.
Maybe we could just do a disclaimer apology at the end of all of our shows that just plays, so we don't have to do it over and over.
Yeah, no, well, that is sort of what the disclaimer says.
Okay.
Yeah. And you didn't even get, we'll probably wrap it up here, but just, I completely forgot to ask you how Anthony Bourdain is a cannibal. But save that for next time.
Who do you think cooks the people?
Oh. All right. Cliffhanger. Which we'll never address again, probably. Awesome.
He does look a lot like Jeffrey Epstein, though, doesn't he?
Ooh, that is a good point. Valid scientific.
Two cliffhangers.
Yeah, valid scientific point. All right, well, we'll mercifully end the show there. And if you can, please leave a 5-star review, unless you hate us. And if you don't hate us, the YouTube page will be starting up in the next couple of weeks. And please go to that. There'll be a link in the show notes whenever that starts up. And you can go to that. Please subscribe. And then you can start to see your stories brought to life. And so that should be an interesting new addition to the whole thing. Thank you very much. We appreciate you listening, and see you next time.
Please be aware that Your Best True Story podcast cannot attest to the validity of any story contained within. Additionally, all podcast hosts have failed numerous IQ tests and been legally deemed idiots by the judicial branch of the state of Florida. Therefore, please seek second opinions from licensed attorneys, doctors, CPAs, and/or ventriloquists prior to leaving your job to hunt Bigfoot, dragging a stake through your sleeping spouse's heart due to vampiric suspicion, snipping, slicing, dicing, or gargling any substance, attempting to drive your automobile off of the flat earth, or attempting to overthrow any government over suspicion that they are lizard aliens. The Your Best True Story podcast does not purport to offer legal, financial, or gynecological advice. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Please wear your seatbelt at all times and keep your hands inside your own compartment. If there is a sudden loss of pressure, you do have our permission to scream. The Your Best True Story podcast takes no responsibility for divorce, bankruptcy, possession by an ancient demonic entity, or brain herpes. For everything else, we still take no responsibility, but we do feel very bad about it.
You got a crazy-ass true story to tell. It It could be funny or thrilling or creepy as hell. And when you speak, surely none will make a sound. And the world's going breathless when your true story comes around. Oh, hear the crazy bullshit flying. Just one more maybe true story before we're dying. Yet be warned, surely not all stories will be treated the same. So don't blame us if your tale about Grandma's cookies is lame. The only way to ensure you could possibly win a buck is to make sure that story of yours don't suck. So instead of yawns, go ahead and tell us how that Bigfoot or werewolf drowned, and then hear the world go breathless when your true story comes around. You'll hear the crazy bullshit flying. Just one more maybe true story before we're dying. Yet be warned, surely not all stories will be treated the same. So don't blame us if your tale about your grandma's cookies is lame.